Welcome back to another edition of Value My Vote, one-on-one with the candidate. And we're here actually at the Southwest Baltimore Charter School with the teacher who's running in the 9th Councilman District, Miss Abigail Breiseth.
Breiseth.
Breiseth. Okay.
Breiseth.
Breiseth. Okay, I got it right. That's a tongue twister, but
I know.
People in this district already know who you are. Like I said, you're a teacher here, so you've seen firsthand.
I'm not a teacher here. I'm a founder here.
Oh, really?
My sister's the executive director.
Okay.
She and I and her next door neighbor and one other woman, we got together and started the school.
Okay.
6 or 7 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
I teach at the Baltimore Lab School, which is a special ed school.
Okay.
That takes kids from all over.
Okay. So what made you decide to go from that educational background to jump into this race to be the next councilwoman for the 9th District?
I've been working in every city that I've lived in.
Mm-hmm.
I've basically been working on the city by working on the kids.
Okay.
Because their individual lives and the individual power that each of them has is the thing that makes or breaks a community. And I feel like at this point in my career, after 21 years, I want to work on the whole city for the kids because it's not happening fast enough. And that's the short answer.
Okay. With that, obviously education will be a big part of your platform, I would assume. In Baltimore City, 15% of the total operating budget only goes to education. You get about 40 to 45% to crime and safety, which in most people's opinion is an imbalance. What would you do, as a councilwoman to kind of change that or alter that imbalance, or would you leave it the same?
No, I think we should be putting a lot more of our resources into our kids. Mm-hmm. Because if kids don't get the education that they need, they grow up to become adults who can't advocate for themselves, who can't take care of themselves, who can't take care of their communities. So, yeah, we should be spending a lot more in education. And as you raise the amount that you put into education, your public safety costs go down as well. Mm-hmm. So there's a hand-in-hand correlation right there. Mm-hmm. I would say that help for families who are here is a really important, like financial help, tax relief, more investment in neighborhoods generally. I'd like to see more investment in neighborhoods than in downtown. All those are ways to address the imbalance of the way that we spend our resources right now. And it's not just how much do we spend on public safety and how much do we spend on education, it's how much are we spending on other stuff as well. How much are we spending on pensions and health care and on tax breaks for giant out-of-town corporations that have their bases downtown, and all that kind of stuff is all part of the mix.
What would you do to spend a little bit more maybe in cleaning up these 47,000 plus vacant housing, which obviously in the 9th District you have the most in the entire city? So what kind of, are you aware of, do you have a platform in which to tackle that problem that plagues the city?
Well, I think that generally speaking, they are a public health menace, as well as being a tax-based problem. And so I think that number one, enforcement, going after delinquent landlords is key, and I'm hopeful that the Vacants to Value program that the mayor has unrolled is turning out to be effective in that. I don't know if it is. And I think that dealing with Section 8 much more effectively would be a smart thing to do. I just came from the West Baltimore Mark Farmers Market, which is every Saturday from 9 to 1, and I heard 3 different people talking about how Section 8 isn't the way it used to be in the 60s, and there used to be somebody who came and checked in on everybody who was getting that funding periodically. And it struck me that there weren't a lot of rules around that, a lot of restrictions the way there are now, but there was personal contact. And now the situation is flipped, right? There's all kinds of rules and regulations, and you can't be there if you have this, and you can't be there if you have that, and you can't even visit if you're a grandson, whatever. But nobody's visiting. There's no human connection, which is what people were complaining about with law enforcement. Cops aren't walking the street, which is what my whole thing about education is, that every individual child that grows up to be an individual grown-up is exercising power on all of us. And so housing policy that helps people be the most effective citizens that they can be is a piece of that. In terms of vacants specifically, I really like an idea that I've heard to allow, when you think about our district as a whole, there are several areas that are very historic, with very large houses that are very grand, like Harlem Park, several others around the area. And those houses are just too big for anybody to take on. And I want policies that encourage local people, that encourage next door neighbors, that encourage Baltimoreans and single family rehabbers, if you will, to take on those properties rather than some giant out-of-town developer who's just going to push a whole bunch of them down and build a big ugly brick block. And so ideas that would be supportive of local individuals in taking care of those houses are things that I'm interested in. So to go back to what I started to say was one idea that when you calculate somebody's fitness for a loan, say they want to buy the house right next door to them, and they want to put in a grandmother apartment, the income from that is not currently allowed to be counted towards their ability to qualify for the loan. And if we change some regulations and if we worked on some banks to allow people to calculate their income in that way, a lot more people who want to buy those kinds of houses would be able to qualify for them. Another thing that I think would be really smart is that we have TIFs and pilots and all kinds of interesting tax deals for big companies to come in and build things around the area. I think we should do that for residents. I think we should take the poorest area in the city, and it might be right here in the 9th, and say, you know what, we're just going to have a tax holiday for 5 years. Now, maybe this is for residents only. Maybe this is for residents and people buying new properties. Maybe this is for residents, new buyers, and businesses. Like, there's all different kinds of ways you could structure it. But to say our people are worth as much of an investment as businesses downtown, so we're gonna take the leap of faith that people will respond to the incentive and take these buildings and turn them into something that is, again, as beautiful and historic as it once was, I think is a really interesting idea.
And speaking of interesting, we're going to get into the dynamics of this race. As we talked off camera, this is probably the largest candidate base as far as a district in the city, next to the mayor's race probably, but or maybe even more. You have about 7 or 9 candidates running, and you're also fighting an uphill battle of the Welch dynasty that's been here, you know, from Agnes, who retired after 27 years, to her son Pete, who took over for about past 100 days or so. How has that been? Has it been frustrating? And where do you see the campaign in the 9th district? I mean, how do you feel? We're about 100 days out now. Do you feel the excitement, or is it still
I feel great.
Really?
I'm having so much fun, and I'm getting so much positive feedback from the people that I'm meeting as I go around and talk to people and talk to organizations. I don't feel like it's an uphill battle at all. I feel like with a smart, well-organized campaign, it's entirely doable. In terms of the dynasty idea, I hope I'm not stepping on any toes by telling you the story, but you watched the whole vacancy appointment hearing process, right? And so you know there were 4 of us who put our names in to be appointed to Agnes Welch's seat when she stepped down. One of them was Pete, who obviously got it, and then 3 others of us. And I was the only one of the challengers who showed up for the second 2 hearings in a series of 3 hearings. And I ended up getting 3 votes from the city council to be nominated, which, you know, I took to be 3 members of city council inviting me to join them, which I thought was a really great compliment and a really great boost. And there was one woman who had been there from the very beginning. She had sat next to Agnes Welch in every single hearing. We had both been very, very early to the very first of the 3 hearings and had been sitting in the hall waiting to be let in and had chatted a little bit, and she was very gracious, and she told me that she had watched Pete grow up and that she was good friends with Agnes, and yeah, she was there to support him, and she was gracious, but she was cool to me. You know, she wasn't exactly like a lot of people are. Oh, it's so great to see young people and a teacher and a woman, and there's only 5 of us on the council now. It's so great. That's what lots of people are saying, because she was not saying that. And so she was there next to Agnes through each of the 3 hearings. And after the 3rd one, she came up to me and she said, "Abigail, I just want you to know, and I say this as Reginald Lewis's mother, I think for myself. She said it again, I think for myself. And you know, I took that as a little bit of a sign, and as I go around and I talk to people who have been dealing with Pete and with Agnes for years, they might be very, very familiar and very fond of them, but I am finding a lot of people who are saying, I think for myself. And I can look around this district and I can see how things are, and we need both vision and energy. And I had somebody who's on Pete Welch's staff the other day say to me that he thought I had a good chance. He said, I think you have the right attitude.
For those who are watching that
I feel
think
great
for themselves and want to learn more about you and your candidacy, how can they get in touch with you and your candidacy?
They can call me at 443-857-9377. You can email me at abigail@ab4baltimore.org. That's AB4 spelled out FOR, baltimore.org. And then that also is the address of my website, www.ab4baltimore.org.
Abigail Breiseth.
That's right.
Got it
You
right.
got it.
Thank you so much for your time,
You're
for
so
your
welcome.
candidacy, and we wish you well on September 13th.
Thank you, Hassan.
Not a problem.
Appreciate
We'll
it.
be back with more of Value My Vote.